Can we do a mic check on this? Or can you hear me all right? Test 1, 2. Or do I need to unmute? Okay, test 1, 2.
I can hear you just fine, Jonathan.
You good? Okay. And whenever you're ready, you're ready. Okay, just moisture. Okay. This is normal. This you can either wear this on your shirt like this by clipping it, or you can plug it in and clip this to your face. You need to do it.
Every morning I'm sitting here.
Do you think I could sit here and do my thing? Okay, I'm gonna do that.
Pointer or not?
Get it out. I don't know.
First is here.
Won't make it too far. There was something in my life.
People at home, can you hear me on the, as I speak?
I hear you. I hear you loud and clear.
People at home, can you hear me?
I hear you.
Yes, I can hear you, Ann.
Good. We're going to start in a few minutes.
Probably my last time for a long time.
Everybody at home, if you would, mute your microphones, and then the speakers will occupy the biggest space on the screens. So unless we're actually talking, please mute your mics.
Appreciate the way you set up the power.
Yeah, oh, good, thanks.
I'm John.
Nice to meet
Mary's,
you. Oh,
she was in a total panic and
oh, yeah.
trying to figure out what to do. But did you get her? I got the email.
The email?
Or did she get it?
No, she.
Oh, he got it. So it's on there already.
Yeah, we got. This is Ian's gonna do it first. And then I can go.
Okay, I have my short announcements first.
Chase this.
Your cats do that.
Okay.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for coming to this meeting. This is the first meeting of the 2023 year, but we are halfway through celebrating our 50th anniversary of the Tampa Audubon Society. So we're really happy to have you here. Those of you, we have some people Zooming. So those of you who are here sometimes have to put up with us while we deal with Zooming, but we're trying to get this to be very easy so it works for people here and the people who can't come for one reason or another and are Zooming in. So, but whether you are Zooming or here in person, so happy to see you. And we do have some people who have never come to a Tampa Audubon meeting before. So if you are new to,
Very helpful.
we're really happy to have you. So, you know, we're pretty friendly, so we'll hang around sometimes for a few minutes after. So feel like you can, you know, talk to people, and we're glad you're here. So happy to have you. So we have a few announcements. I do typically show this information though every meeting, just to give a little bit of background about the society. We started actually in the 40s, but incorporated 50 years ago in 1972. And we are the local chapter of the National Audubon Society in Audubon, Florida. And our mission is, you can see here on the slide, to conserve and restore ecosystems, focusing on birds, wildlife, and their habitats through education, advocacy, and community involvement. And you'll see when we talk about what we do that we're very focused on that. it gives us a lot of scope, but we really do target our efforts that way. So we have a number of field trips in January. Wanted to share all of these with you. The beginning bird walk is always very popular here at Lettuce Lake Park. Lettuce Lake never disappoints. It's always a fun walk. You do have to register in advance for all of our field trips. And we do ask people to not necessarily wear masks, but if it's a really windless day and we're in a tight area, then, you know, bring your mask so that you can wear it. We're still concerned our leaders who lead the field trips, as well as some of our members, are in the vulnerable population. So we are still following the guidelines of for the not contracting the coronavirus. So, but anyway, January 7th, Mary Keith is going to lead the beginning walk at Lettuce Lake Park. And then we have a really fun field trip also coming up on the 21st on Saturday. The Lake Hancock Outfall, and Nick over here will be leading that trip. That's a place, I don't think we've ever had a field trip there before, have we, Nick? Yeah, not in a while, but it's the headwaters of the Peace River. Pretty exciting place. And then on the next day, on a Sunday, which is nice sometimes to throw in a field trip different time of the week, where Lily Saul is going to go to the Violet Curry Preserve. And she took a field trip there in the summer, and this is a winter field trip to the same site, and it should be really very interesting. Then later in the month, we have a field trip to Merritt Island and the Orlando wetlands. At this point, we are taking waiting lists. The trip is full, but if somebody drops out and you wanted to go on it and you want to let Mick know, he will let you know if we have an opening on the waiting list. And then, let's see, did I already talk about the Violet Curry? Okay, had it on here twice. Oh, okay, my mistake. Okay. And then in February, the Lettuce Lake trip is the 8th. That's the second Saturday. And so again, that's a really good trip. Megan Campbell is leading at that time. And then we are taking an overnight trip that Mick is leading down to Eydmann Park, which is a huge military facility. And it should be really fun because the expert birder, Patrick Blake, who is the ranger there, is going to be helping to lead that trip, taking us to all the best spots to see the many birds that are there, which range from burrowing owls to wading birds to, I mean, it's just amazing what's there. And then another really fun trip the next weekend is going to be an eco tour of the Kissimmee River. And that's over near Loretta. I would recommend you sign up for that one right away. It's going to be limited numbers. It's going to cost $35. So you need to sign up for that trip as soon as you decide you want to go on it. It's going to be one of the really great trips. It's a beautiful river. Much of it restored now, and they're going to be talking about the restoration work and, of course, get to see the wildlife. Great. So we do a lot of volunteer work. We have regular bird surveys at some of our nature preserves, purchased through the Environmental Lands Program. And then you can help garden, the native plant garden at Lettuce Lake Park with the Native Plant Society. You could be a docent at Lettuce Lake at the Joel Jackson Nature Center. We have somebody there every weekend and holiday afternoon. And we're actually getting enough people, maybe holiday mornings and weekend mornings too. And it's a great opportunity to visit with the public that's going through the park. Maybe help them answer questions. Mostly they want to know where's the bathroom. But that being said, just being friendly and, you know, helping them enjoy their visit to the park. It's kind of a nice thing that we do. And then we have 3 really big projects. Project Colony Watch, which Tammy is heading up. Tammy's sitting over by the door, and the birds are going to start to nest in our bird colonies starting at the end of March. So if you have a bird colony that is in a location near you, you want to help to watch it and monitor it, Tammy is the girl to talk to, and she can help us get that organized. And then installing the artificial burrows for burrowing owls. Hillsborough County used to have a large population of burrowing owls, and we really don't anymore. And by installing these artificial burrows, we hope to encourage that population to recover. And then we get here tonight about the bluebirds. So that's fun. We're also working on trying to help fishermen and others not catch birds while they're fishing, and then if they do, to know what to do about it. And we created several videos about that you can watch on our website if you go on it, or you can YouTube hooked birds, hooked pelicans, and that will come up. But we are actually in the Dunedin International Film Festival, January 12th, with our Please Don't Feed the Pelicans film that Tampa Audubon paid for, produced, and said exactly what we wanted in it. So pretty proud of that. I mean, that we did that. And then don't forget, we have our Young Birders Club. And this is just an opportunity for young birds, if you know children who would like to be bird watching with other children who like to go bird watching. And it's really fun to watch them when they get together. They compare, if they've taken pictures of the birds, they compare it. They just have such a good time together. So they go to great birding sites. There is a monthly JChat talk that the children say, I want to know about this. And so an expert comes on, it's a Zoom meeting kind of like today, but children are the ones allowed to ask questions. Adults, no. So it's theirs. Again, right. Did you hear that? Have a child that's interested, you can get a card and share it with him. Avian flu is in our area and it is a problem. So if you see a dead bird in your yard, this is something that you want to maybe be serious about. You don't want to handle the bird with your hands and use a shovel to throw it into the garbage or whatever, and take down your feeders for a couple of days. Bird flu is spread through the feces and interaction with the birds. So cleaning the bird baths and so forth, very important. And we learned at one of our meetings this year, something I didn't know is avian flu is deadly to birds. If they catch it, it's fatal. So it's something that's really a bad thing. It's probably driving up our poultry and egg prices as we speak. So a lot of times it's fun to know what's happening in our environmental lands program, and you can find out about that through the Environmental Lands Trailblazer newsletter. So I would like to let you know about that. When we can get out in the wild, it's really good for us, as we all know, whether it's our field trips or their efforts. You know, we've paid for those conservation lands and we should be enjoying them. And our next meeting is going to be about the state of Tampa Bay by Joe Whalen, who is a staff person at the Tampa Bay Estuary Program, and he does their public outreach for them. So that's all of my announcements. Did anybody have any questions for me? Okay, just want to point out at the end of the meeting, if you would like, we have some items for sale and we have actually a silent auction for these pictures up here. And, you know, you can get them and they're not expensive. So, okay. Right, this money goes directly to Tampa Audubon, all of it, every single nickel, dime, penny, etc. So, so it gives me great pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Mary Miller is a long-term advocate for bluebirds and wildlife in our area, and her program and the volunteer efforts, including her wonderful husband, John, and several of the, who here has actually worked with Mary on the Bluebird. Yeah, a lot of volunteers, and you know why? Because it's fun. But she's going to share with us what it is she's done, why she's working on it, and tell us every detail.
I give them donuts. They come for the donuts. That's right. Thank you.
So we need to put the microphone on you. We need to put the microphone on you. Want me to do it?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me now? Okay. I am always delighted to come talk about bluebirds. And I'm very happy tonight that, am I in the way? This way? Right, okay. Actually, I may sit down, but, okay. All right, before I begin, I want to mention that over on this side, I have a lot of handouts from North American Bluebird Society. Everything from predator guards, how to monitor a bluebird, setting up a bluebird box or a trail, whether you should feed them mealworms, just all kinds of information. In addition to that, I have applications. If you want to join the North American Bluebird Society, which Tampa Audubon is an affiliate of that organization. And the other thing is I have some of my brochures from Flatwoods Park, which I'm going to be talking about tonight. So they're all free. Anybody's free to take anything you would like. But I am delighted that, make sure I get over here. Back in the 70s, Tampa Audubon was smart enough to put a Bluebird Trail out of Flatwoods Park. And I'm thinking that was probably about the same time that Flatwoods Park actually started. And so I'm also very happy to report that we have a thriving population of bluebirds out there right now. And in addition to that first trail that they started, we now have 6 Bluebird trails in Hillsborough County, and I'm going to focus on that tonight. And I'd like to introduce, if I can get this going the right way. Oh, I can't believe it. Okay. All right. I'm going to introduce the people right now that are monitoring those parks. If I can get this little thing to work here. Well, how do I get that little arrow to work again, Mick? Or am I not doing it right? Oh, no, wrong way.
Not bad. There it goes.
There it is. Okay.
Yeah, that's-
All right. I'm just going to try to get that to work. Okay. The first park I'm going to introduce the people is Lake Park. It's on North Dale Mabry in Northwest Hillsborough County. And Joni Hartzler and her husband Gary Krotz, stand up just so that people can know you. They've taken over that trail. It's a wonderful trail. All right, our newest trail is Hunter's Green, and that's taken over by Patricia O'Brien Giglia, and she's doing a fantastic job out there. I, with the help of Sherry Keller, Sherry, stand up, take care of Flatwoods Park. I also take care of John B. Sargent Park, and Sherry just keeps standing up. Sherry also does Lettuce Lake Park. And then down there, whoops, I gotta go back. Whoops, giving away all. Down in South Hillsborough County, southeast is Bomboyette Scrub Preserve, and that's Nancy Eydmann. And we're sure. And that park in particular, Sandy Reed is the one that started that park. And she was so thankful when somebody was able to take it over for us. So I know Sandy's very happy about that. Okay. So now I'm going to switch to my part of the program, which is telling you about what I've learned on the Flatwoods Trail and all the things that I've learned that these other people have had to learn also. So we're going to start by making sure that everybody in this room knows what a bluebird is. Because I have been to complete presentations where at the end somebody will come up with a blue jay on their jacket and say, oh, I have these all over my yard. And I'm thinking, oh my God, where did I fail? But anyway, there are many birds that are blue, but there's only one that's named the bluebird. And if you guess that the indigo bunting or the blue jay was a bluebird, you would be wrong. This is the real bluebird, and it is in the thrush family. We actually have three species of bluebirds. The one is over on the west coast. That's the western bluebird. Looks very much like our eastern bluebird. And it goes up into Canada and down into parts of Central America. Then the mountain bluebird has a bigger range, which overlaps with the western bluebird, goes all the way up to Alaska. And it's the bird is all blue. And then ours is the eastern bluebird, which is the biggest population of bluebirds. And it's all over the eastern United States, plus it goes past the Mississippi River to the west, and then down into Mexico in parts of Central America. And you'll notice in all three of these pictures that the female is always very less colorful. And that's because she sits on the nest and guards the eggs and takes care of the chicks. The bluebirds that we have down here are non-migratory. So everybody asks, well, what happens to them in the wintertime? They're still here. You just don't see them because they're not going in and out of the nest feeding their chicks, but they are here around. The male, as you know, is bright, brilliant blue, and it has a russet chest. The female is much more muted, the colors, just like I said, for that very reason. They are primarily insect eaters, which most people don't know, and they ask me, why don't I ever see that bluebird at my feeder? That's because they don't eat seeds. They're not primarily seed eaters. They are mainly insect eaters. It's a beautiful 7-inch long bird with a 13-inch wingspan. Now, why do we even have bluebird trails? Well, for several reasons. Bluebirds are cavity nesters, which means that they will not build a nest on a limb like, say, a blue jay or a cardinal. They need a cavity, like they'll take over an old woodpecker cavity, and then they build their nest in there. Well, introduced English house sparrows and starlings came into the United States in about the 1850s. They were brought over from Europe by New York farmers who thought that they were great insect eaters, and it turned out not only were they not great insect eaters, but they also were cavity nesters. And so their population spread very quickly all over North America and actually all over South America. But what they did was they took all the cavities that the bluebirds used to nest in, and so the bluebirds did not have cavities to nest anymore. And by the early 1900s, people were discovering, where are the bluebirds? We used to see them everywhere. We don't see them anymore. So their population started to decline. Also, it was because of the destruction of old growth forests and also the use of pesticides. So in 1934, Thomas Musselman started bluebird conservation and the Bluebird Trail. And in 1975, Dr. Lawrence Delaney wrote The Bluebird, How It Can Help It Fight for Survival. And he recommended making these artificial nesting cavities, which we call bluebird boxes. And in May 2000, North American Bluebird Society began with the support of Wild Birds Unlimited. So creating bluebird trails is what enabled the bluebirds population to start returning. By 2001, there were 18,500 nest boxes and 360 trails across the US and Canada. And the largest trail, you can believe this, stretches 200 miles in Canada with over 2,000 boxes. And when I think about my puny little 56 box trail, I don't know how anybody does that. But this is Sandy Reed is the one that recruited me to take over this Flatwoods Bluebird Trail. And I'm entirely grateful to you, Sandy. Best job I ever had. But anyway, she gave me the Bluebird Monitors guide, and it's like the Bluebird's Bible. And I still refer to it all the time. It's sponsored by Cornell Lab Ornithology and North American Bluebird Society. And each of these new monitors, we've given the Bluebird Monitors guide also. And my husband is great about going on eBay and finding them really cheap there. So that's what we do. So, like I say, Sandy recruited me to start I'm into my 19th year now at Flatwoods Park. And Flatwoods Park is primarily a city of Tampa well field, but they have a 7-mile trail, a paved trail that goes out to all of their wells and pumps. And so they allow biking, hiking, rollerblading, jogging, and they allowed us to put our Bluebird boxes there. And the bluebirds love it because it is perfect habitat. They love the pine flatwoods. If I can just get this going again. Yeah, there we go. So Flatwoods is extension of Fletcher Avenue under 75, turns in Morrisbridge Road. You hit Trout Creek, and then Morrisbridge Park, and then Flatwoods. They're the 3 wilderness parks. And that's where it is. So I only show this picture of me with my little car because everybody wants to know how we monitor. And when I was young and had good knees, I used to go out there on my bike, but I can't do that anymore. So I take my little Scion out there, and we have magnets on the side so that people won't call the police on me like they have in the past. And I am so lucky to have Sherry helping me out there. It's almost like a party every time we go. We have such a good time, but she's been helping me for the last 3 years also. So like I say, we have a 7-mile loop. When I started, we had 38 boxes, and now we have 56 boxes. The bluebird nest eggs, the nests are made of fine grass and pine needles, and the eggs are 95% blue. There's about 4 to 5% of them that turn out white. And those chicks aren't any different from the ones that hatch from the blue eggs. So that bluebird box serves as their nesting cavity. They will build that nest inside that bluebird box. They'll lay their eggs, they'll hatch their chicks, and they'll have their fledglings. So it's very important how you build a bluebird box. And we have one of the people here, Erwin, is the person that I refer people to if they want somebody to build a bluebird box for them. He also does the predator guards. But primarily they're made of redwood, cedar, or white pine. Most of ours are. No pressure treated wood. You don't ever use pressure treated wood for these. It's harmful to the chicks. The hole is very important. It needs to be 1.5 inch opening. That's big enough for the bluebird, but too small for like a starling to get in. A bigger bird can't get in there. We use galvanized nails and screws. The door has to pivot so we can open up and check on the chicks. Also, when the fledglings are gone, we have to clean it out. We need air vents, either drill holes on the side or leave a little gap up the top where the door opens. And we have some that open from the front, but most of ours open from the side. And if anybody wants to build this box, all these construction plans are on Tampa Audubon website. Now, this is very important too. We started building our boxes so that they have a very good overhang, like this one and this one. Because if you just have a very short overhang, a bird like a crow can sit right up here on top You can reach around in, kill your babies, kill the parents. So we recommend a large overhang. That goes, same thing for the perch. Bluebirds do not use perches. They fly right into the box. And if you have a perch, it allows a crow to sit out there, exactly what I was talking about, and reach in. They can't get in the hole, but they can reach in and kill the babies. Now, one of the first things we had to do when we went out there, most of the nesting boxes, well, none of the nesting boxes were on their own post. They were either on trees or well-filled posts, spigots on them. The one that was in the tree had a flying squirrel nest in it. So, but the reason is obvious here when you see this cat trying to get into that box. If you don't have it on its own post with its own predator guard, you have it on a tree, a power telephone pole, fence, any predator like a snake, raccoon, cat, or anything you can think of can get in there and kill your chicks, and they will eventually. The boxes need to be at least 5 to 7 feet off the ground. So we usually have 8-foot post and we put 2 feet in the ground, and that makes it a perfect height for us to open the door and see in and check on the babies. Now the predator guards are very important, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. The opening of the box needs to be away from the hot afternoon sun, because in June, July, and August, it is very hot in that box. And if you also have it facing toward the south or the west where that hot sun comes in, the little chicks can suffer. The boxes also need to be at least 8 feet from any overhanging branch, fence, or telephone pole. And that's for the very same reason. You could easily have a snake or raccoon climb down that limb and get over to the bluebird box and kill the chicks. But they also need to be near trees or shrubs, so that the parents like to, when they're hunting, they like to come out of the box, keep an eye on their chicks and go over here and land on a limb, and they can look down here, forage for insects at the same time they're watching their box. But then when the fledglings come out, they don't fly very well. So it's very important, if you don't have a shrub or a tree nearby for them to go to, they usually come out and fly on the ground, and that's a perfect time for a bobcat to jump on them and kill them. Now the boxes have to be 100 yards apart, and that is because bluebirds are very territorial. They will not let another bluebird nest within that distance. Actually, they won't let anything nest within that distance. So here are the predators that we deal with mainly, and I'm going to tell you how we take care of all of them in this presentation. We don't know for sure if the Cuban frogs are really a predator, but we don't take any chances. If we find one, we remove it. The raccoons will get in there, they'll rip off the top of the box, they'll rip open the door, they'll just pull all your babies out and just eat them right on the spot. So if a raccoon has been there, you know they have been there. The one thing that we were surprised about, but not anymore, are these fire ants. And they are a big problem for the baby birds. But our real problem out of Flatwoods has been these rat snakes. The yellow rat snake, the red rat snake, but it's called the corn snake. They love to eat our baby birds. And I'm going to tell you what we try to do to keep them from doing that. So other species that use our box, we encourage other native species to use our box. We do not want an invasive exotic species in there. So we are happy when we have tufted titmice, Carolina chickadees, and brown-headed nuthatches in there. Now the Carolina chickadee and the tufted titmouse, eggs and nests look very similar. And the only difference is pretty much that the tufted titmouse eggs are bigger. The little chickadee uses hair in fur, and it will actually take fur from a living rabbit. We find rabbit fur in there all the time. They'll just come and pluck it right out. And the thing about the titmouse, we always know it's a titmouse is there's a little bit of snake skin in there. And I don't know why they do that, but if we find a little piece of snake skin in there, as Patricia did, it does. But anyway, in the bird world, these two are cousins, and that's why their eggs and nests are so similar. But other species we have in our box, like I said, when I first came out there, we had a box on a tree and we had flying squirrels in there. Carolina wrens, we mainly have them over at Lake Park. And then we've had a lot of evening bats. And I'm just going to tell you very quickly, I wrote this article for North American Bluebird Society for their journal, because about 10 years ago, we had bats that would come and go in our boxes, but this one family just didn't leave. And so anyway, we thought, well, we'll just put up a bat box there and then we'll go out at night and wait and see what comes out. And after they're all gone, we'll take away that bluebird box and give it back to the bluebirds. Well, that of course did not work at all, because when we thought all the bats had gone and we opened the door, it turns out there was a maternity colony of evening bats in there. We had 11 baby bats. So we could not do anything about it. Of course, it's illegal if you exclude them. So we just left them there, and eventually they all left on their own. But we did leave up that bat box, and they did come back to that box for several years. This year and last year, we had the bats take over about 6 or 8 of our boxes. So Sherry said, it's time we build our own bat boxes. So that's what we did. We built 3 bat boxes, and this is a picture of John and Sherry working on, and the other person in that picture is Ranger Clint Paragard. He is a wonderful ranger that looks out for the bluebirds all the time. So anyway, the good thing about that is within a month, we had bats in one of our boxes, which is very unusual. So we're very excited about that. That doesn't mean that this year we won't have some bats in our boxes again, but we're waiting to see. Now, when we go out on the road, we carry these things with us. The sulfur powder is what we sprinkle in the box at the beginning of their season, and it's supposed to be an insect deterrent. The whisk broom is what we use to, once the chicks have fledged, we clean out the nest, and we use a whisk broom to just sweep it out. We always carry a drill, hammer, screwdrivers. It is amazing all the material we have to carry for these bluebird boxes. And the other thing we do is fire ant bait. And that's what I'm going to tell you, how we've tried everything we could to keep the fire ants off the babies. But the only thing that worked was after we have a nest in there that's occupied with eggs, every week at the base of that post, we sprinkle the fire ant mound destroyer and do it every single week until they fledge. And that has been very effective. As a matter of fact, it's the only thing that we found that was effective. But it used to break our hearts to come out one week and find 4 babies. The next week come and find them covered with ants, dead. So this works very well for us. Sure. Spray. No. What it is actually cheese. Cheese container, and I'm sprinkling it. I put it in my cheese container, and I always make sure at home that I label that as poison. You know, do not use on your spaghetti. Parmesan cheese. That's it. Yeah, actually, Gail. A lot of times I've been out there, and when I doing that, I'll hear the cyclists go by and they stop me a lot. And I heard one day, oh, look at that, she's feeding the birds. And I thought, no, I'm not. Okay, so we carry with us a spreadsheet every time we go out. And like I say, the nesting season is from March through August. And the bluebirds will have between 2 and 3 broods per season. We note on there if there's any predation, if they have eggs, chicks, if they have fledglings, if they're bluebird, chickadee, titmouse, or something else like that, and send that report to North American Bluebird Society. And again, I've got these spreadsheets on the website if anybody needs it. To do all this, we have to know the nesting timeline so we can keep track of if these babies are in trouble, if a nest didn't hatch in time, we know it's probably infertile, that kind of thing. So like I say, the nesting season is from March to August. They have 1 to 3 broods per year. It takes them 4 days to 2 weeks for them to build the nest. And both parents build the nest. However, the female will not let the male sort it out. She only does that herself. They're imitating our home life, right? So the females lay between 1 and 5 eggs total, usually 3 to 5. But the incubation does not start until all eggs are laid. So if you see your bluebird going, lay an egg and then fly off like one of the rangers did, don't worry. She'll be back tomorrow until she lays 1 egg a day, and then she starts incubating when they're all laid. The incubation period, the eggs will hatch 12 to 14 days after incubation begins. And then it's a busy time for the parents. Both parents feed the chicks. And that's when you really see them going in, out, in, out, in, out. It's easy to spot them out there. Now, the chicks from the first brood also help feed the second brood. And this is a fledgling from the first group that's got something in his mouth. He's feeding it to the new birds in there. And these chicks fledge 17 to 21 days after hatching. And they remain with their parents for quite a while, learning how to hunt. And as you can tell, this mother or father here is saying, good grief, go away. You know, aren't you old enough to take care of yourself? So they build a new nest for each brood. So in other words, after one brood fledges, we take out that nest and any unhatched eggs, and we discard it as far away from the box as possible. And Sherry wants us next year to actually take them home and put them in our trash because they would attract predators if they could smell that nest nearby. And so then we just whisk away any remains in that box. Now, how are our birds doing? In the 18 years I've been monitoring, we've increased 160% with a total fledglings of almost 3,000 and the total bluebirds of that amount, about 2,500. So the thing I want to talk about the most are the predator guards. A lot of people put up a bluebird box and they think they're done, and they are not done. Actually, they're doing the birds more harm than good because they're just setting them up where all the hawks and any other bird around can see them out there. They don't have anything to guard from getting in those chicks in the box. The chicks are probably not going to make it. So when we started, like I say, all of our posts, well, all the posts that were there were wooden posts. So we were told that if we just wrapped it with some kind of metal, that a snake or a raccoon climbing up would just slide down. Well, guess what? It did not work. And so we tried other options and found out this baffle also doesn't work. If it's not at least 3 feet across, a big snake can come up the post, wrap its tail around the post, and then take its head on around and wrap it up there and get into your box. So that didn't work either. And a lot of people likes to grease the poles, they're metal poles. And that maybe works, but we don't do it for two reasons. First of all, the hot sun down here dries it all up. So you have to keep constantly greasing it. But we also don't want to harm snakes, raccoons, anything that climbs up that post with that grease on their body. It's not good for them. So we don't recommend that at all. Now, what we finally went with was what most people recommend. It's called a stovepipe predator guard. And these kind of stovepipes can be found at like Lowe's and Home Depots. It's 8 inches. And construction details are on Tampa Audubon website, but I want to show you how it works. We have a little mesh at the top that's held up by 2 hanger iron strips. And because there are only 2, if a raccoon tries to climb, it wobbles, so they won't climb up. The snakes, on the other hand, will go down here. If I can get my little arrow to work, they climb up the pole and they go inside. And when they get up here, they can't get through the mesh, so they give up. At least that's theory. But anyway, these are the most effective ones we've found. Now, in our situation, because all of ours were on wood posts, we had to have a bigger predator guard. And I'm working on putting together the details of how that's put together. But we've had 6 Eagle Scouts that have worked with us and have gotten their Eagle Scout badge or whatever it's called by building predator guards for us, building boxes for us. And they've been very helpful, because if you get an Eagle Scout, they have to make all the money that's required to put their project in place. So it's never any money off of Tampa Audubon. It comes out of their money and they pay for everything. And then we go out there with them and put them up. Now, trail maintenance is ongoing, and I am lucky to have some wonderful volunteers. Erwin right over here is one of my best. Sherry, of course, is there all the time. Colleen helped us out this year. Yeah, she was great help. Clint, the ranger, is always helpful. And Roxy, I'm sorry, she's not here tonight. She is a wonderful help. But this year we actually had a very extensive problem. Last year, we had a lot of snakes that got caught in our predator guards and died. We had a lot of snakes that got caught and we had to rescue them. So to avoid that, this year, after nesting season, we went out there. We spent about 100 volunteer hours taking them completely apart, putting them back together again with a modified predator guard, which we hope will work. So, and of course, on the left is my husband, who is great about repairing boxes and posts for me. Now, this is the one thing that I did not know until this year, but North American Bluebird Society recommends that at the end of each nesting season, you sanitize your box with 10% bleach water solution. I have never, ever used bleach before, but when they recommended it, so that's what we just finished doing that in December. Pardon me? No, you do not. You leave the door open until it dries out and then close it. Like, so it's a 2-day operation. You know, we sprayed it one day and then we'll go out the next day and see if it's all dry. So now I'm coming to the part where we're going to hear from our other monitors. So I would like for Joni and Gary, or both or one, to come up and just tell a little bit about their monitoring out at Lake Park. Oh, certainly.
Here you go.
This is called Lazy Bluebird Monitor.
I love it. I love it. They're the only ones smart enough to get a golf cart.
We actually did. What do I do with this?
Just talking to them.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Just make sure everybody can hear.
As you know, we Sure, thank you. I only have 4 minutes, so this is part of it.
Okay, so just gotta remember not to stand in front of the.
How many of you are familiar with Lake Park up on North Delhaven? Good, good, good. That's great. Lake Park is actually 600 acres. You would never believe it. And it's in a, if you haven't been there, it is in a suburban area. So the houses are located all around it. And what happened in about 1997, I was at Lake Park because we're fortunate enough that we live right across the street. So I was at Lake Park, and over by the restrooms, I saw my first bluebird ever in Lake Park, which was an amazement because nobody had talked about bluebirds. We didn't know there were any bluebirds. And there was a member of Audubon at that time, you guys will remember, who took it upon herself to go put out a couple of bluebird boxes. Gary and I found those, they were there maybe, I don't know how many years. But anyway, we did go out and we saw the bluebird boxes after a few years and they were in decline. But there were more bluebirds, so there was some success to that. So what we did is we did redo every single box. We added, Gary built every single predator guard, and we redid all the boxes, and we have 26 now out in the area. So thank you. We not only have 26 bluebird boxes over there, but we also have never had a bluebird in our yard. And we now have them across the street on 2 streets, which is just amazing. And so that tells you the benefit and the success of that. We've also had, this year, we had the Young Bird Club out. And they all had the opportunity to go to each box. And we took them to a box where there would just be a nest. They got to see that. They were great, by the way. The kids were amazing. Then we took them to one where we knew the birds had just hatched. They were able to see that. They stood on a post. They were able each to take a picture. Then we were able to see the parents feeding the bluebirds. It was really a great outing. So if you have a chance to go with those kids, they're wonderful. And I'd like to have them back this year. We did have 100 fledglings this year, which we thought was pretty good. And we were really, really, really fortunate. Probably the biggest thing I'm proudest about is that we did not have any predation. So every one of those boxes has a predator guard on it. It has the right size hole. It has everything. And Gary makes every one of those. You were going to tell them how you do that. But anyway, he's a riveter. So he does it with the metal and rivets it and is real proud of that. This year he came up with a new idea. Tell him about your poles. He doesn't want to come up, but anyway. He's so proud. We've been digging these holes for the past how many years?
Yeah, we use the post hole digger. That gets old after a while.
We use
Anyway,
it,
this may seem simple, but it's not.
I use a post hole digger to do these metal
Post, you know, and gets old after a while. So anyway, on Big A, only called Amazon, they have this 2-foot auger with a 2-inch drill. I put that on my electric drill,
Have you done it?
and man, all we have is sand anyway, and that thing just goes right down there, and no more post hole digging and everything else. So we're gonna be moving some boxes this year and add more boxes. So this little post hole digger is gonna come in real handy. So instead of doing a post hole digger, get one of these for $25. You can't beat it.
Anyway, basically what we've done is we've replaced the boxes, we've restored some boxes, we've maintained the boxes. It is a lot to do. So every Tuesday, if you ever are around that area and you want to come by, we're usually there between about 9 o'clock and 1 o'clock. You'll see our golf cart so that everybody knows why we've got all this equipment on the back. They don't allow golf carts, but they do allow us. And also the staff at Lake Park is incredible. Because they will, if we have a really difficult box to move or it's raining or whatever, we can actually ask them and they have moved them for us. So we're really, really lucky in that regard. The last thing I want to mention is not about bluebirds, if it's okay, and I hope you don't mind. And that is that there are in Lake Park, there are 4 wood duck boxes that are in great need of repair. Last year we did have great crested flycatchers hatch in those, which was really nice. But if somebody were interested in taking on those boxes, we'd be happy to help you with those. But they do need somebody to go update them and move them and clean them up. And there are also 2 owl boxes. So everybody wants to do that. We'll pick between you all and decide, but you can work together. But anyway, I did want to mention that. That'd be a really great thing if somebody wanted to help with that. I think that's it. Okay, thank you. Okay. She had a question. real quick. No, we started off with, we're up to 26 now. Yeah. That's what's amazing. As a matter of fact, the bluebirds lay 3 times, have 3 broods at least, and sometimes 4, are in that very first area where I saw that one bluebird close to the bathrooms in the middle of the center. Now, we have some boxes that are in the back that we maybe have 4 boxes that haven't had anything. So we've moved and moved and moved. And we had one, we were going to move it because in a couple of years it hadn't done anything. They knew we were going to move it, so they went in. So we do move them around because of that reason. But yeah, we have the 26, maybe 30 this year. Anyway, thank you all. Thank you so much.
I want to tell you that that is the most successful Bluebird Trail I've ever seen. I mean, and I hate to get Joni's report every week because I'll say, oh my God, we had another snake and caught in our predator. We don't have any snakes that I've sorry. Hello. Okay, sorry. Okay. Okay. Patricia, come on up. And like I say, Patricia is our newest Bluebird monitor. Let me see if I can get this on you.
I had to buy a selfie stick.
Yeah.
I'll
okay.
tell you.
All right. I think.
Myself.
Okay. Go ahead.
So good evening, everyone. I by accident bumped into Mary, and I'll tell you how. I moved into Hunter's Green 20 years ago, and because back of our house abuts Flatwoods Park, I was so lucky to always see some type of bird out there, and I just loved it. I was always so curious. So we went to Home Depot and bought a box, didn't know it was a Bluebird box, attached it to our fence, and lo and behold, we had our first clutch, our first and only clutch out back. And that started my interest in how the boxes look, what this and that, etc. We've also had a family of titmouse in that one box, but that was the end of that. We did have garden snakes out there and corn snakes, and but I was very fortunate to see my first fledgling fly from my kitchen window, which was so exciting. It flew out into the break, landed on the sand, and the 2 parents in the pine trees flew down, picked it, took it up and took it away to take care of them and, show them. So that was really the start of my love for wildlife, all kinds of wildlife, and especially the little bluebirds. So with my limited knowledge in walking through Hunter's Green Park, Hunter's Green has a park called Parkside, and Parkside is a community park. They have soccer and all types of activities for the community neighborhood, a lot of kids and teenagers, etc. And so baseball, etc. So I noticed that I thought one of the boxes was turned in the wrong direction. I'd never saw any activity in the boxes, by the way, but this one box somehow caught my curiosity. And I started going online and looking through. And I remembered a long time ago, somebody had mentioned there's a Bluebird lady out there. Somewhere there's a Bluebird lady. And I searched it. And sure enough, Mary Miller's name came up with Tampa Audubon Society. And Mary mentioned to me that there was some fellow by the name of David who was taking care of the boxes out there, and then I should try to call him and et cetera. So, but he was busy and he couldn't do that anymore. And so Mary decided to take me on. And she took her time and patiently explained everything, basically. Came out to the park. We opened all the boxes up. There was no activity in the boxes at all. And just explained about this, that, and the other thing. And this one little box that was in the wrong, I thought in the wrong location or direction, was okay the way it was. It was okay. I haven't seen any bluebirds in there, but that was the one box where I was dying for Mary to answer the phone. There was a snake skin in the box. And I thought I'd have a heart attack because, anyway, I got my husband, so he came rushing over and he had all this gloves and everything. God, I'd say,
Identified it was a boa constrictor, by the way. No,
oh,
no.
oh, Lord.
That's what it built up to.
Yeah. Oh, I know. So, so he cleaned out that box. And by the way, because I'm, as you can tell, rather short stature, I cannot look into the box. Now, in our boxes, we have little tomato containers, the little strawberry baskets, yeah. So all of the boxes had them. And before I had a chance to ask Mary about it, I just took them out and threw them away. But now they're back. And so I can't, you're able to pull the bluebirds will build their little nests in these boxes, and you can easily just grab the box and look at it and do your observations and put it back in. Well, I can't do that. I don't want to reach in, especially after seeing a snake skin in there. I don't want to reach in there to grab it. So I went out and bought a selfie stick if anybody is interested. And the selfie stick attaches to my phone. And all I have to do is tap, 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 open, and take a picture. So it really works out well for me and I don't have to worry. But let's see now, my the Parkside Park has 5 boxes, and I didn't time myself.
No,
so-
don't worry.
Okay, so we have 5 boxes out there, and we're also very lucky because the maintenance crew that works for Hunters Green and Parkside, he's an avid wildlife lover, period. He wants to get a bat box out there as well. So if anybody wants to contribute an
We got
old bat,
plenty bats. We
we-
don't have any more bat boxes.
Well,
We got plenty of
I
bats.
had I had a bat in one of my boxes, by
know.
the way, so the one that we moved.
Right.
So he will go ahead and he'll on his own decide, he thinks that this box could be moved here because of this, that, and the other thing. So he generously helps to relocate any of the boxes that we thought we would want to have. And he always checks with me and then I'll check with Mary and we'll decide where it's going to go. So this year, with my first year, I was so excited because we had a total of 28 fledglings.
Can you imagine?
Yeah. And we may have had them before. Yeah, I was just so excited. And it's so exciting to see the chicks when they first hatched, the little, anyway, they're so beautiful. So this year, so I went ahead now and I had a box out there, which was no activity because it was facing southwest. And Mary suggested that we move the box further east and turn the box, right? And in about 3 weeks, guess what? It had and I could watch it directly from my kitchen window. And I will tell you this year again, over the past 2 months, I have 1 male and 2 females.
Wow.
2 females are following this male around. Can you imagine?
He's gonna have to choose. He's gonna have to choose.
The guys are going, yeah. This is 2 of them. So anyway, they, the 2 females are not fighting with each other. They seem to be cooperating, and they perch on far enough away so they don't yell at each
They
other.
need their own
They need the
kitchen.
kitchen. But he goes in and out, and so I know it starts in March, but they're looking already, which tells me that they're probably looking all throughout the other ones too. Now, the one in my house now is, since we're facing Flatwoods, we're very close to one of them. Particularly, I know was one of the last boxes that we visited, so I mean, I'm sure they're trying to choose their whole area. It's so exciting to see their whole, like this whole little bird mentality. It's really incredible, because for one time, I will tell you, in my box out in my backyard, I have squirrels that torment my dog, and they go across the screening and they just love it while she is going crazy down here. But the bluebirds will, as little as they are, with their mouth filled with weeds and trash or whatever, weeds and stuffing, both of them took off after this. It was the funniest thing, took off after this huge squirrel on the screening. And it was the funniest thing you've ever seen, because here you've got 2 birds coming at this, and my little dog is just sitting out there. You know, right? So they're pretty incredible little creatures. But getting back to Parkside, the 5 boxes, I've gone out there once or twice. I do have 1 bat in there. I also have what I think is a woodpecker. Now, I will tell you one more thing about not predators, but this is like a territorial thing between woodpeckers and bluebirds, right? So I've got tons of woodpeckers out there, and last season there was this, it wasn't the pileated one with the big red head. It was
It's a red
a
dot.
red bell. Okay. So was tormenting and aggravating the bluebirds box. You come to the box and you tap, 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 tap. He was tapping all over the place, making a lot of noise. And so I read that you could take a woodpecker box and move it and park it away from the bluebird box to keep the woodpeckers away from the bluebirds. Okay.
And did that work?
It could have worked, but without getting into this, you have to go through the HOA.
Oh, that's right. Anyway,
Moving on. We'll move on. And so, no, so I donated my woodpecker box to Dave. So Dave has my woodpecker box, and he was going to plant it out there. And I gave him instructions on, it has to be over 100 feet, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, that is my story. I think I've taken up my time, and I'm very blessed to have Mary to be so patient.
Thank you, Patricia. You're doing a great job. Tricia, let me have.
Oh, yeah.
And this is a lady who didn't want to go second because she didn't know what to say. So. Okay, well, anyway, when she went out there, Dave told her that he didn't see any bluebirds in any of those boxes. After she took it over, she ended up with 28. So I think that's pretty good for the first year. Okay, next we have Sherry, and she is the one that helps me at Flatwoods, but she's also taken over Lettuce Lake Park. Can you put this on yourself? Maybe. Might put it on your- Thanks for it. Good. All right, super.
Okay. Gee. Could you? Oh, Patricia, could you fill in? Hi, I'm Sherry Keller. I have been an active member of Tampa Audubon for about 14 years, I think. How did I get started with bluebirds? I ran into Mary at Lenny's Sandwich Shop over by Lettuce Lake. She said, I've just had hand surgery and bluebird season's fixing to start. I'm a little worried that I won't have recovered enough. And I said, oh, I can help. And so anyway, that's how I got started. I have, after I helped Mary for a year at Flatwoods, I decided I would take over the Lettuce Lake Trail. There's only 3 boxes there. So if you think I won't have much to say, you're mistaken. But we've had those boxes there for a long time, but I heard that they weren't very productive. And so the first summer, the only nesting activity was wasp nests. And I would go every week and knock down the wasp nests and then go back the next week and do it again. And at the end of that summer, I realized that it's all about, what the real estate agent says, location, location, location. And those boxes were, first, they were too close together because I could see them all I could stand in one spot and see them all from, one position, too close together. So, and there was one that was close to the parking lot. And I thought, well, that's kind of busy. I need to move them. So I waited too long because I'm a chronic procrastinator. And when I got around to moving them the next winter, it was shortly before bluebird season was to begin. And the first box already had chickadees building a nest. So I didn't get to move that one, but I moved the other 2. And the first box had chickadees. They were really overachievers. They filled the whole box with their nest. I hadn't put a basket in it because I was, hadn't got around to it yet. And so it was difficult to see what was in there. The bluebirds came within a week or so and just bumped the chickadees. And I kept waiting for the bluebirds to build their nest on top of the chickadee nest. And then finally, I had the bright idea of sticking my phone up over the top of the nest, and I discovered that the bluebirds hadn't read the book. They had just used the chickadee nest as is and had laid their eggs in it. So that nest box had, 5 eggs. I think that they all fledged. It was a little hard to tell, but anyway, I was just very pleased that I had, such success immediately with that box. The other 2 boxes also had activity. Chickadees built their nest in each of the other boxes. One of them fledged 2 chicks, and then the eggs were predated by something, and I'm assuming it was a snake. But, because I'm not there 24/7, it's a little hard to tell, but the nest was empty and the 6 eggs were gone. So the bluebirds, after their first fledging, I cleaned it out, put a basket in that time, and they built another nest, had another clutch of eggs. I was at Lettuce Lake on a Saturday in early June for the beginning bird walk. I saw the parents going in and out of the box. I saw the juveniles hanging around, helping. And I said, great, we've got, another clutch of eggs has hatched. And then I went Monday and after Flatwoods and checked the box, and the chicks were gone. So I don't know what happened. They were predated or, perhaps they died. So I cleaned it out and had another nest built in there right away, another clutch of eggs. And then after about 3 weeks, I went to, checking. I knew the chicks should be hatched, and there were dead chicks. And at that point, I said, I think that this is too busy a location because it was close to the parking lot, it was next to the playground, and there were constantly people coming and going because Lettuce Lake is the most visited park in Hillsborough County. And I realized that the birds weren't just, you know, every time I would monitor, they would come over and peck me in the head and, you know, very aggressive. And I realized it wasn't just me that they were trying to run off. I figured that they were running off, you know, anybody that came too close. And in the summer, when it's very busy there, they, I felt like they just didn't have enough time to feed the young when they were busy defending the box. So it was okay in the spring when, you know, things aren't so busy. But anyway, I'm going to move that box. And I went ahead and just took it home with me so that, you know, nobody would get ahead of me this year. And, oh, and another thing about the location. One of the boxes that never had anything but wasp nests, it was right underneath a tree that had a red-shouldered hawk nest. And I thought, well, this is a dangerous neighborhood. So anyway, it's all about location. You've got to have the right habitat. So 3 boxes, and I had like 100% occupancy. So I'm thinking, wow, this is really cool. And then I thought, well, wait a minute, maybe it's just, there's so much development that these parks are under so much stress that when there is an extra cavity available, you know, the birds are, you know, happy to take advantage of it. So it occurred to me that anybody who's got a good backyard could probably put a box there and get chickadees or titmice. You may not be in a bluebird area, but there's other cavity nesters that would be happy to move in. That's it.
There's a possibility of people trying to open the nest and see what's in it and possibly take the eggs themselves. Because out in Parkside where I am, that worries me. Even some of the workers from the lawn care and whatnot were very, very excited to see, you know, us out there. And I often wondered if they were curious, maybe not mean or nefarious or whatever, but just curious about, you know, picking up the eggs and looking at the little chicks, you know, that kind of thing. And that also, that's what worries me in my park. Do you see that at Lettuce?
Irwin made me a very nice stencil. I said, Irwin made me a very nice stencil. Do you remember that? That it just says, don't open protected species. And I sprayed that. In fact, he even showed me how to put my hand inside one of the vegetable bags from the grocery store. So you could hold your stencil up and spray it. So there's the man.
We had the lazier person's remedy. And just, we have a screw that screws the side on, and I take a screwdriver with me to check those boxes. Oh, no, I just, you know, the box is screwed shut. Screwed shut. Yeah, one screw solved a lot of, you know, issues.
Thank you, Sherry. I will say from the beginning, the problem with Lettuce Lake is that it's so busy. It's hard to find a spot where the boxes are not going to be harassed. And that's what Sherry has run into ever since we went out there. First of all, they were in the wrong spot to begin with, but it's hard to find a good habitat for them out there. But she's still looking. Young Gail.
I talk loud, so location is important. I think habitat. If you want a bluebird box, you need to be, you just can't put one in your backyard. If
No.
you don't have the right habitat in your backyard, you're not going to get bluebirds.
No.
You've got to have the pine woods in your backyard. They have to have the pine woods normally, yeah. So I have had people in the past that lived down by in North Tampa, and they wanted to put bluebird boxes up. And I said, you know, do you have the right habitat?
Right.
After a while, they discovered that they didn't have the right
Right,
habitat.
right.
So I think that's very important, because a lot of
Yes.
people say, oh, I want to put a bluebird box up.
I
You-
know.
You just can't do it anyplace.
No, and you're so correct. My yard is like a jungle. I can get chickadees, I can get tin mice. I will never be able to get bluebirds.
Right,
It's
right.
not the right habitat. Thank you.
Was I loud enough?
Okay, well, and our last speaker is Nancy. Nancy, she is at Bonvoyette Scrub Nature Preserve.
As you can see from the picture, and I brought my part of my gear, I do monitor out at Bonvoyette on my bike. So let's put it on.
I think that will work. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Which is why we had this made, so that when the other riders are out there, they'll know that I'm not just getting into the boxes when I shouldn't be. The people in the picture, my daughter is there, and the lady with the Hillsborough County Conservation Group, Danielle Ivy, is there, and she works with us. Bonvoyette is a nature preserve that used to be a phosphate mine. So we have no cars out there, which is really nice. You can drive in there, but you have to go through 3 locked gates. So primarily the people that are at Bonvoyette are bikers, and they don't care about our boxes. So they're pretty safe. There are 15 boxes at Bonvoyette, which I ride each week and monitor on my bike. I do carry a large pouch because, yes, we do have to have tools sometimes. We have not had bluebirds out there this year. We have had Carolina chickadee and the tufted titmice. Location, as everyone has said, we have been concerned about the location of some of our boxes. So within the next 6 weeks, we're going to go move some closer to some pine scrub areas in the back part of the park. But my understanding is there have been bluebirds there in the past. Fishhawk kind of backs up to Bonvoyette, and I've talked to other riders, and they have bluebirds at Fishhawk. So I'm hoping that we'll get some bluebirds with us this year, but any birds are good, and being out in nature is wonderful. So if you ever get a chance, want to come down there, they have a great walking path. If you like to jog, you can jog on the paths, or if you like to do biking, they have 3 different kind of bike trails. So you don't have to just be a hardcore mountain biker to be out there. So.
Well, she really has been living it out. Thank you. All right, we are wrapping this up. I just had this picture because I am the one who monitors the boxes at John Sargent Park. And the only reason I do that is because the senior manager of the wilderness parks on his own years ago put up bluebird boxes out there, and they were falling apart. And when I started taking over the Flatwoods, he came to me and asked, would you mind upgrading the boxes out there and keep an eye on that also? So that's how I got the job at Sargent's Park. And I just want to tell you that this past year, with our 6 bluebird trails, we fledged 307 birds. 267 were bluebirds, 28 were chickadees, 6 were tufted titmice, and 6 were Carolina wrens. So I think that is a remarkable thing for one year.
How many boxes?
Just three boxes. Yeah. Now, I want to tell you, if any of you aren't already doing this and would like to get involved with our Bluebird program, Pat Lewis, our former president, came up with this idea several years ago to get more people interested in our Bluebird Trail. She said, why don't we have them sponsor a Bluebird box. She said it will solve two problems. First of all, they will get more involved in what's going on our Bluebird Trail, and the money that comes in for $10 a box will help support all the repairs and maintenance that needs to be done out there. So that's what we did. And if you want to sponsor a box, you just look on tampaaudubon.org under Bluebirds, and it has sponsor a box. You can do it two ways. You can mail in that form, or you can sponsor it online through PayPal. So what you get for your $10 is I send out a weekly report between March 1st and the middle of August that has, that tells all that's happened in all 6 parks that week. And then at Flatwoods, where you're actually sponsoring the boxes, I also give you a spreadsheet so that, for example, if you got box F7, it says that it's occupied, you've got 3 chicks in there, and they're all bluebirds. So you can tell what's going on in your box every week, as well as everybody else's box. And then this is the part where Sherry and I have such a good time. We find ourselves looking at so much wildlife that we think, wait a minute, did we check that box? I don't think we checked that bluebird box. We better go back. So we take pictures of what we see in the nest, and then we always see other kind of birds like these whistling ducks and the turkeys. That day we saw an enormous alligator, and because I'm a member of the Native Plant Society, I always throw in as many pictures as I can of native plants. So if you want to get involved with that and also help support, even though you're sponsoring a box in the Flatwood Trail, the money goes for all the parks, all the 6 Bluebird Trails. So I just want to tell you that. So if you need any more information, you can go on the North American Bluebird Society website, Tampa Audubon website, or Cornell Lab of Ornithology. They're all excellent. So at this point, I would like to just ask if anyone has a question of me or any of the other monitors. Sure.
Great presentation. Thank you to all the speakers.
Okay.
I have 2 questions related to the slide that you just with showing the report that you send out. How long are you, first question is, how long have you been capturing all of this data? It looks amazing. They have longitudinal data on bluebird nesting. And is that data being reported?
To North American Bluebird Society,
Okay.
yes. And I've been keeping the data since I started in 2005. So I've got it.
Since
from there on
2005.
out.
That's wonderful. Do you know if other organizations are doing this kind of like data collection like you are, and the National Society is capturing it all?
I do get reports from North American Bluebird Society where he will send out the reports of those people that are under his purview. So I know that other people are doing it. Now, the guy that's in charge of our region loves my reports. I send him a report every week. They're always asking, can we take a picture of that alligator and put it in our report? They said, we don't see half the stuff you see down there. So yeah, they love it. But anyway, yes, that's the answer is yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions for anybody that spoke tonight?
Dan, I can see.
Do you send a report to the NABS Society for your park and your monitoring data?
She sends it to me. I send it all in.
You send it all in. Okay, I was just wondering because
Every
yours is so
week-
successful too.
Every week, these 6 parks report to me.
Okay, so you're in charge of all
and
the
I
data.
show all those numbers on my weekly report. And then and I send it in every week to NABS, but they really only want it once a year. And so at the end of the year, I send it for all of us. So,
Very
yeah.
good.
Yes.
Even I learned everything I know about bluebirds tonight. I was curious, what happens if you don't clean the nests regularly? Do they just decay and not get used, or do other things come in?
If you don't clean the nest regularly, a lot of the bluebirds build really tall nests. If you don't clean them out, sometimes they will get higher than the opening of the bluebird box, and then the bluebirds can't even get in. Now, in nature, of course, they just kind of fall apart with all of the rain and everything. But many times they will not nest again until you clean out that old nest. So we just, as a matter of course, we just clean it out. Erwin, you had a question. No, Erwin and I have been working with Nancy McClendon at Folly Farms. Is that Clearwater or Safety Harbor? Where is, it's a Safety Harbor. And she asked if I would come over there and help her start a Bluebird Trail over there on their side. So I went over there and we picked 5 spots, and then Erwin built the boxes and the predator guards for it. And so they're all excited about having a Bluebird Trail for this year. So.
Out of county.
Out of county. Yes.
I heard you talk about a lot of numbers about numbers fledged over the years. Do you have any idea how many at any one time, or like right now, Bluebird population of Flatwoods would be, for example?
I would say at any one time you've got probably at least 200, maybe 300 bluebirds in that park. And again, you have to remember that of the fledglings, only about 30% will make it to 1 year. So a lot of them die, and that's probably the reason they have 2 or 3 broods anyway. But yeah, we've got
You have more of them there than, that's the biggest site, right? Of all those.
probably now Joni's site, for the size it is if you want to see a bluebird and you've never seen a bluebird, go to her site. And on my site, you have to get on a 7-mile trail and you have to hike it or bike it. Hers, you can just pull into the park and you see them all over.
I've seen many bluebirds at Flatwoods.
Yeah.
I'd like to bike up there.
Particularly,
Yeah.
and I had one guy come up to me one day. People stop me all the time when I'm on the Bluebird Trail because they wonder what I'm doing. And he said, I saw a Bluebird box back there. Really? I mean, I'm standing there, monitoring. Yeah. He says, I've never seen it before. And he says, you've only got 2 out here, right? I said, sir, I've got 56. Oh, no. So, well, believe it or not, I mean, I do. No, but anyway, that's incredible. Any other questions? Yeah.
2 questions, if that's okay. A couple times you mentioned a strawberry basket or something.
Yeah.
What do you do with that?
I'm glad you mentioned that. This is a great thing that Sandy Reed brought about. And it's a wonderful thing. We get these little strawberry baskets. You know what I'm talking about. They're the little green baskets, strawberries. They're not cardboard, they're plastic. Yeah. And they're hard to come by anymore. They don't sell them in the store in those little baskets anymore. But anyway, Sandy found out, every time we go out, we open the box and look in. Sometimes if there's something wrong in there and you can't tell exactly what it is, if you try to pull that nest out, it falls apart. So Sandy found out a long time ago, if you put those little baskets in there, they're exact right size, the bird will build the nest in the basket. And then if for any reason you have to take it out and pull the whole thing, don't bother the birds, the eggs, the chicks, anything. And that's what we use in all of our boxes.
And I use cherry.
Exactly. Anything like that will.
But it's got to be the plastic ones.
It doesn't have to be.
Oh,
It
okay.
doesn't have.
And it
people-
doesn't, the plastic doesn't harm the birds. They don't
Not a
chip away
bit,
at the
not a
plastic.
bit, Not a bit.
They build their nest now, and there'll be like 3 tiers on rooms and, pushing the nest up near the hole.
Right.
Yes.
So you can pull it out.
And clean it out. Yeah, when you clean it out, it makes it very easy. You just dump it,
Mhm.
you're on your way.
You can't find a berry box and you can just make one out of hardware cloth.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Shallow view.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you have another question?
Second question, yeah, if that's okay. So if they have 2 or 3 broods, or 2 or 3 or 4, whatever broods, if you said that the first brood will help, the fledglings will help feed the second brood. Okay.
Right.
So at the end of it all, do all of the fledglings leave the area, or do they kind of stay
They
in the
all
area?
stay right there.
They do,
lost.
okay.
Again, the reason we don't have 3,000 out there is because not all of them make it.
Right, but the mommy and daddy will continue to use that
They
same
will
nesting
continue
box
to use
year
that
after
nest.
year, right? But
Exactly.
the fledglings, as they grow up, they won't use that same box, but they'll still be in the area.
There may be a fight for that box, but usually the parents will win out. If they
Okay.
use that box, they'll use it
Thank you.
again.
I've had 5 fledglings in my backyard. I was sure it was the same 5 fledglings because I saw most of them fledge from that box from my kitchen window. And I'm almost positive that those 5 little birds would come back around and sit all 5 of them sitting all up on my fence.
Right.
And I've even had the thought that the male and the 2 females that are coming
It
back
could be the
now
fledglings.
because they're young birds.
It probably is.
So
It's
my-
probably not a male and 2 females that are mating. It's probably a chick. Yeah,
So-
that's right. Sandy.
I just have to say one thing about the strawberry
Yeah, I
baskets.
want to hear it.
Not,
Sandy.
well, not all of the Bluebird societies are in favor
No, they're not.
of their use. So I learned when I was in North Carolina, I was at 100 box Bluebird Trail at the college there. And that's what they did. And so I came here and that's what I did. But a lot of places feel like you're interfering with the birds. I shouldn't say I've never had anything happen, but you have to be very careful. You have to know the timing of how old your birds are, because after 12 days, you risk, if you pull that out, the babies can
Yeah, right.
jump out and they're not ready to fly and it's a mess. So
Right.
you shouldn't do that as a matter of routine, is pulling the basket in and
No.
out. Mary knows from week to week what she's doing, but if you're doing it, don't
No.
advertise it, they don't,
No. And Sandy and I got in trouble. We
With
went to the first meeting in Jacksonville. They were trying to start a Florida Bluebird Society. Sandy and I went and Sandy made some comment about that strawberry basket. And they practically banned us from the group. That's the
Yeah.
reason we are an affiliate. We thought, well, heck, if you're gonna throw us out, we'll just become our own affiliate. And that's the.
well,
honest
there is the Florida Bluebird Society, and
Yeah.
they say you can't be a member if you
No.
use those baskets.
Yeah,
So,
we
and
just
some
formed
people
our own.
feel very strongly about it, but they're a basket case. Yeah, but anyway, it's just,
Thank you for that.
just so you know, it's not,
Not everybody does.
not everybody should do it. You've got to really know the
That's why
cycle. of the
really you
birds.
didn't see any pictures of the baskets in my boxes. Sandy and I decided a long time ago, we would not put that in there just because somebody might be in the audience that would contest.
Well, and I have to say one more thing is sometimes the babies will die in the nest and they kind of melt into the nest
They
and make
do.
a stinky
They do.
mess. If you have that basket, I have taken the live chicks out of there and taken the basket out with the dead ones. And then sometimes I'll have a nest
Extra
from
nest.
that was never used.
Right.
And I'll just put that in there and put the clean chicks in there, so.
And that's the kind of thing you do not tell a Florida Bluebird
No,
Society.
you don't tell Florida Bluebird Society. There you go.
They don't want to hear that. This lady had one more question back here. Oh, don't send it to them.
I just have a statement to make. I know some of y'all mentioned, like habitat and how important it is and the primary habitat of bluebirds. But for those of y'all that don't know, I own Wild Birds Unlimited up in Carrollwood.
Okay.
And we have bluebirds in our courtyard. And I'm talking about a strip mall with a Publix.
We do here.
I mean,
in Tampa.
you've been in my store,
Yeah,
know.
absolutely.
And we have bluebirds right there in the courtyard where
Exactly.
people walk by all the time and bicycle and, skateboard and the
Right.
whole bit. So it's not ideal. And I always tell my
No.
customers, that is not ideal habitat. You may never get bluebirds. It's a miracle that we have them.
Yeah, really.
But it's nice because people that have never seen a bluebird, we get to show them what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, is that it? Thank you very much. Right.
I just bought a feeder from the store a couple days ago. It was the platform feeder with like the cedar rim and I put in some seed and some dried mealworms. It had bluebirds on it. Yeah, yeah, they loved it.